see. So anyway, hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome back, and if you're new then I hope you enjoy this, and if you do, please like and subscribe. We're going to be doing a few things this evening. I'm just going to show you a few things I've been doing since we last met, and a few people have asked how I go about making hands, so I'm going to show you that this evening. I've started a bit of work on a hand and I'm going to show you how I do it. So this is the hand I've been working on. It looks a little bit creepy at the moment because it's only half completed, but I'll be showing you how I reach this stage and then doing a little bit more work on it to show you how I'm going to carry on with it. So as we go along, do feel free to ask questions. Rob's here, he can relay anything to me that you send me, so please do ask. If I can, I will answer your questions. So first of all, I'll just give you an update on what I've been doing since I last saw you. So those of you who watched the last video, you will know that I've been working on this boy called Kyan, and I told you a lot of backstory about him, which you can find on my last video. So he's almost finished. So this is him now, nearly finished. So what I have left to do now is to finish off this hand and colour it, and he's going to be holding a little tiny piece of music that he composed himself. So I'm just going to put this piece of paper in here. This isn't going to be the finished piece of music, but that's the size of it, so I've just put a piece of paper in just to show how his hand works and the size of the piece of music. So what we're going to do is to actually take the piece of music that Kyan wrote. I've got a photograph of it, and Rob is going to use the computer to shrink it down to this size, and then we will put it in position like this, just a piece of paper with a little printout of his actual writing of this piece of music. So it'll be very, very small, but his mum and dad will know exactly what it is, and that's the point of this, so that when they see it they'll be reminded that he wrote this piece of music. So you can see that most of him is done now. All the colouring is done apart from his hand, then his socks. Can we do a close-up of him, Rob, please?
Overhead.
Yeah, so here's his face. This was, those of you who saw the last video will know that this was a very typical pose, his hand like this to his face. This hand, very typical sort of position. His little knees, this is what his mum loves, the way his little knees were, his little skinny body. So I hope I've captured him to their satisfaction. And we put this picture on his t-shirt of the raven because that was his favourite bird. Okay, so I'm hoping to finish that this week. There's such a little amount left to do. I'm sure I will finish it this week, and then he'll be sent off to Australia. I think he's slightly out of focus actually. Yeah. Okay, so and just to remind you, this was my original sketch with some ideas of hand positions and things, so he hasn't quite come out as exactly as I sketched him, but you know, it's still, I think I've captured a typical pose of his. Okay, the other thing I've done since I last saw you was I have been on a fantastic, can you get back onto me, Rob, please, trip to Venice in Italy, and while I was there, it was the famous Venice Carnival. So fantastic costumes, people dressed up in the streets with amazing masks and things on, wonderful costumes. So it was very inspirational, and I really now want to try and sculpt a figure, or a couple of figures actually, of the sort of costumes of a person in those sort of costumes with masks and things, because they were just amazing. So I want to really have a go at doing that. But before I do that, I've got a couple of commissions left to do. The next one I've got to do is a panel, a relief panel, and it's of 4 friends so with their arms around each other, which lends itself nicely to them being in a line on a panel with their arms around each other, and they're actually on a ship. So I want to try and convey that in some way, which, you know, it's not easy to do that on a panel, but I think what I might have is like the rail of the ship in front of them, so maybe some of them are leaning on the rail, whereas others have got their arms around each other's shoulders. So that's my plan. So when we meet again in a month's time, I hope I'll have some of that to show you, and you can see how I've gone about achieving that. And then after that, there's one which is just a head and shoulders of a woman in America. So those are my sort of future plans. But for this evening, let's have a look at how you do a hand. Because with this boy, I think this is what sparked off the people wanting me to show you how I've done hands, because of how I've done Kyan's hands. So that's what I'm going to do this evening. So I'm doing it on a much bigger scale than I normally do, because, you know, usually my figures have got hands about this size. So this evening I've gone bigger so that it's easier for you to see how I've done it. Okay, so this particular hand, the way I started off with it was to make an armature. Should we go back down onto the other shot now? So this was the armature, sort of armature I made. So I made a sort of curved, this is this part of the hand here, so minus fingers, and the fingers will come out of there. Now I've got some reference photos for the one I'm doing, but I just thought I'd show you some. I love these anatomy books, actually. They're very useful to see how a hand actually works. So I just thought I'd show you briefly some of these. So this is a great book. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this book, Anatomy for the Artist. It's got lots and lots of drawings in here of the body in various poses, different parts of the body, and it shows you very clearly how things connect one bit to another. So here's the foot, for instance. Really excellent drawings to follow, and how the bones of the foot work. The knees, the hips, all sorts of things like that. So it is a very useful book. So if we have a look at the drawing of the hand, you can see quite clearly that the hand is just sort of 5 sets of bones really going up to the wrist. So here's the wrist, and the fingers that you actually see on your hand are just the last 3 sections of bone here. The rest of them are hidden underneath this part of your hand. But a lot of the tendons in your hand break the surface. I mean, they show up. I've got very veiny hands here, but you know, they stand up. So it's nice to show that in your work. So if I show you this other book, this is a clearer look at the tendons that come up from the fingers up towards the wrist. So these do stand out from the hand, unless you've got very plump hands, and there's so much skin over that you don't see it so much. But I like to show that in my sculptures, because I think it looks a bit more realistic. So you can see in the one that I've done here, I've done these 3 fingers already. So here you can see the tendons standing out, leading up to the wrist. So this evening I'm going to show you how, with these 2 fingers here. I've also done a little bit to the palm, and just sort of shown the fleshy bit of the thumb here, and how this part, if you look at your hand, I've looked at my hand a lot as I'm sculpting it, because I haven't got a reference picture that's very clear of this side of the hand. So I've been using my own hand to look at how it's all put together. And if your fingers are bent forward slightly, as this is, you get this little fleshy area here. So I've tried to show that there, and it looks a bit untidy at the moment, but I will actually be sanding this and tidying up quite a lot. But you can see the effect you're getting, the way the palm curves inwards like this. And here on this bit here, you get a little dent just there. You can see on my palm there. It curves into the flat of your palm there, but there's a slight dent there. So I'm trying to show that. So I put these out of the way now, and we'll get on. So I'll show you my reference picture. This is the hand I'm using as a reference picture. Now I normally have this on my computer, but just so that you can see it easily this evening, I've just printed it out. But that's how so I've sort of arranged the fingers in the same way, so the little fingers sticking out slightly. This one's bent more towards these two, and the thumb is just casually there. I've indicated the nails. All of this needs to be tidied up obviously, but this is just to show you how you can start off making your hand, and then you obviously improve it as you go along. So as I was saying, you start off then with your piece of newspaper and masking tape just to hold it in place. So a very simple shape of this part of your hand, and curved inwards underneath like that. And then what I do, especially on this scale, because if you're making fingers, you know, it needs some sort of support because they're sticking out with no support. So I use, I don't know whether you call these toothpicks or cocktail sticks, but just little wooden sticks. And I just put them in like this. Doesn't really matter too much at the moment what arrangement you have. I'll try and do them similar to the one I'm actually working on. So that's the 4 fingers, and it doesn't matter about length at the moment because you can just cut them off when you've got the finger as long as you want it to be. And then the thumb goes right back here. So it looks very odd at the moment, and in fact I put up a few photographs of this on Facebook as I was working on it, and lots of people commented on creepiness, Edward Scissorhands, and Halloween props, all sorts of things, because it does look a bit scary when it's just a hand in isolation, but as I explained, it's just for demonstration purposes. So this started out like this. Okay, there it is from the other side. So it doesn't look very promising to start with, but it does give you a framework to work with. So I'm going to work on this finger now. So this is my guide here. So I just made a new batch of clay this afternoon. So I always like a nice new batch, it's all nice and soft and nice. I've got a little pot of water, a couple of brushes, and I'll probably from time to time just use this tool, which has got a sort of little spoon shape end to it. So looking at the reference picture here, I'm going to start at the top here, the knuckle, do I mean knuckle? Yes, this bit where the finger bone joins. So you've got your 3 bones, there's one there, and one there, and then it goes on right up into the wrist here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I like this quite knobbly bit here at the top of the finger, and it actually goes diagonally towards this finger. So we'll start with that. So I have made a slight raised part here just to indicate things, but it needs to go a little bit higher. So I'm just going to mainly use my fingers to shape this. Just dip your finger in the water and it'll help you to just smooth things out as you go. So the first joint is there. So I'm going to just make this bit here, and it sort of goes in and then out again at the joint. Now I used to hate doing hands because I just couldn't do them, and so I think I've said this to you before, I used to do all sorts of shenanigans to avoid them. So on my sculptures I would have the people I was sculpting with their hand in their pocket or hidden behind their back or something, so I wouldn't have to actually sculpt them. But I have practiced them quite a lot, and I really like doing them now. Now you can see that there's a slight indentation there and there, which I want to capture. So one of them goes off in that direction, and the other one is more in that direction. And it's the little details like that which make things look a little bit more realistic. And if you see here, this bit is a very definite edge here on top of that little flap of skin that comes like webbing between your fingers. So I want to try and get that. So I'll just use my nail to make a definite edge there. And then I'm going to curve this round. Now you might find once you've put this first bits of clay on that the finger ends up looking a little bit too thin, but that's fine because you can just fatten it out. So we'll just go with this for the moment just to get the clay onto it. So you can see here that this knuckle here it splays out quite a lot. It's quite round compared to the rest of the finger up here. So we'll just put a little bit more clay on this bit and then taper it down. So this is, I'm going to use my little spoon shape tool, just dipped in water. I'm going to blend it in with the rest of it, but let it splay out a little bit, and then have it coming in a bit narrower here. The other thing you can do, which is quite useful, is to use a wet paintbrush just to help you move the clay around. The only problem with this is you do risk it getting a little bit too wet, so don't have your paintbrush too wet. So I'm not going to be too fussy on the shape of this yet, because we can tidy it up later. My main concern now is to just find where the knuckle is, and it's slightly higher than this knuckle, so this needs to come in a little bit here, because it's narrower here than here. And then we'll bring it down to this knuckle, which is just slightly higher than that one. So again, it's a little bit fatter. Right, it's a good idea to turn it round and look down the finger. I find this quite useful actually, because you can sort of look at your own hand and then compare it to here. Okay, so I'm now going to just look up the hand here. So after these areas with the indentations here, it goes at it's quite a raised bit right up to here, which is sort of on a level of where the thumb joins into the hand. So you can get a sort of sausagey shaped bit here and put that on so that you get this trough here. There's quite a deep trough there. Just play it down. Just seeing how far this comes up here. And it goes across like that. I think there's another raised bit going around there. A vein or a tendon or something. But I like putting these details in because it does add to the realism of the piece. Again, turn it round so you can have a look. Right. So, starting to take shape now. And remember that when you've got all your basic shape put in with the clay, when it's dry, you can start refining it, so you can sand it or cut pieces off or just adjust it however you need to get it right. Right, so now if we have a look at the top of this, the little finger, that joins in very nicely to this joint here. So I'm going to put this lump here, and then it sort of tapers down at the back there. And we're going to be able to capture this little flap of skin, like webbing, in between the fingers. Here you've got a little dent there, which I want to capture. And this finger is slightly tilted over compared to the others. So I think what's important when you're doing something like this is to not stare at it too closely. Keep looking at it in different angles. Turn it around and just see how it looks from different angles. So you see this dent here, that's created a nice what will be a fleshy part of the hand here, and you can see the bone of that little finger going up there. I think that's quite a nice. I like the fact that that finger is sticking out because you get this nice shape then. So then we're going to go down to this fatter knuckly area here, which is slightly above the finger next to it. Right. And then it slightly curves around on the lower bit of the hand, the finger. have a look at it from this angle. Now at this point I'm going to turn the hand over and have a look at the fingers from the back, because if you look at your own fingers, this part of your finger is quite fleshy. Well, it is on my hand anyway. So I want to capture that in these lower joints here. So I'm just going to join these up here. That, and like this. So have another look at my hand. Yeah, so I need to just show where this joint is here by just flattening it out slightly and then making it fleshy again there. Okay, so this needs to be just sort of tucked in there a little bit. I think I use my wet paintbrush for this just to help blend it in. It's like sort of painting with clay when you use your brush like this. Look at it from this side again. Now, what I didn't do was to indicate these knuckles slightly. So what I'm going to do here is to just push the clay around to create these knuckles, the joints. Now we can tidy this up at a later date, but it's just to show where the joints come on the fingers. So I just want this lower joint here to just curve round slightly.
Could you put that near the camera?
Where? Up here? Or? Oh.
Yeah.
There. Okay, and there's the other side. And then looking down it this way, get a feeling for how the finger is coming out this way. And you've got the tendons coming up here. Okay. Now what I didn't show you before, I'm just going to put this down for a moment. Try not to damage it. When we were at this stage, you obviously everyone hasn't got their fingers out like this, absolutely straight like these cocktail sticks. So what I tend to do is to just, where the joint is, I just snap them, but not quite all the way through, so that you can play about with the finger positions. So you can have them, you can start moving them around to how you want them. You know, if you want the fingers more bent, and then you just seal that in place with a little bit of clay. You can just put a bit on like that. And then you just get the angles of the fingers. And obviously you have to remember that not all your fingers are the same length, so you've got to decide where the joints are going to be and how long each section of the finger is going to be. And obviously this part where the fingers actually emerge from the, I want to say palm, but the back of your hand there, you have to sort of adjust these accordingly. Okay, so it offers you a chance to, you know, get a different hand position. I'm just going with this quite basic one for this, but you could do all sorts of hand positions. Okay. So if I go back to my hand now, and I'll show you now how I do the nails. So this finger now, the nail, in relation to this nail, it's slightly further back. So I put a blob of clay on like that, and then with my spoon shape tool, just mark where the nail starts, like that, and then the nail is curved like that.
Get close to the camera again. Take it high.
Oh, I don't know, it's going to make me shake if I do that.
Can't see the detail.
Make sure to make your nail this shape, it's not flat. It's difficult for me to do it in mid-air actually. Normally I would do it sort of more down on the table, but I'm trying to show you the detail of it. Don't know whether you can see that. Obviously, when you're doing this, you take a bit more time over it than I am, but just so that we cover it all this evening. So you can see it's a very rudimentary nail coming out there, and that's as long as I want the finger to be. So at this point, I think I'll find my scissors here. I would just snip off that bit of stick that's sticking out there. Okay. So there's obviously a bit more shaping to do on that, but you get the idea. And then we're going to do the same for the little finger, which again is higher than the other finger. So it's about there. I'm shaking. I have to just put it down for a minute because sorry everyone, I'm just trying to do this without shaking. It's difficult if it's up in the air. I could do a bit more clay on there. Better to have too much clay than not enough, so I can always take some of this off. That one needs a bit of tidying up, but I think when it's a bit drier I can do that. So it's starting to shape up now anyway. That nail is not right, but I'll do that again later. Can you see that? So what I want to do now is to just put this little bit of webbing in here. There it is there, like a little triangle of skin that is sort of behind the fingers. So I'm going to put it in behind here. Just put it in like that so it's underneath the fingers, and then I'm going to use my brush here now. Just to redefine the bones of that finger so it's more of a trough there. Now this bit here on the side of the hand is quite fleshy, so you've got this, I think I've lost my little dent I had there which I liked so much, so I just put that back in. And then I'm going to make, see this fleshy bit comes right out from here. And then this is quite a big fleshy oval shape there, going up to this indentation here. Can you see that? So this bit here goes right into this deep trough here. So I'm just going to and then just pull it down. Now this finger needs to have a bit more substance to it on the back, so we'll do that in a minute. But first of all, just to get this fleshy part of the hand to curve round smoothly. I think I'll just make that bone go up there a little bit more like that. There. Now when it's all dry, you can then do quite a lot of sanding and refining of this to get the veins and the tendons and things a bit more as you like them. Do a bit of correction. You can always slice bits off as well if you've made mistakes or things aren't quite where you want them. So we've gone out of focus again. Sorry about that, it seems to be out of focus. Oh, there we are. It's come back into focus now. So this is not quite right here. So this is why I say turn it round, keep looking at it from all angles, because you can see that that's not quite right there. Probably needs to be a little bit more clay just there, so that it feeds into that finger better. That's better. I like that better now. So you still want to see this finger coming up here, but just get the angle a little bit better. But this is part of the fun of doing hands. You can just play about with them. And hands are all different anyway, so you know, even if it doesn't look exactly like this hand, this is my interpretation and I'm sticking to it. So now we just need to flesh out the back of the fingers again on this one. Look at your own hand, see if you bend your fingers slightly forward as these are, you can see the fleshy bit there and there, it bulges, so you want to get that in. I'm just going to put a little bit there. Here's my tool. And sort of tuck it in there because it tucks in behind this fold of skin, so we need to put a little bit more there. A little bit on this finger. Everyone's very quiet tonight. Any questions come up?
No.
Oh, perhaps no one's watching.
I've got 7.
Oh. Right.
I've got Liz Gamble.
Hi Liz.
Sherry Bella G or G.
Oh yes, hello.
And Angela Marsh.
Hello Angela. Right, so I think you can see it's starting to take shape now. I'm still not, I think that's bulging too much there, so I'm just going to flatten it down a little bit there. Keep looking at it, keep adjusting it. And then what we'll do eventually, that finger for instance there needs more of a fleshy end to the finger. So we'll just give that a little bit of clay there. It's quite difficult actually demonstrating this on a camera because I have to be aware, and I'm not always very good at this, of keeping it in shot for you, whereas normally if I'm working, you know, I might pull it much closer to myself or further this way and then you don't see it, so trying to keep within shot is quite tricky, and it does make your hands shake if you're not supporting your arms properly. Working, if you see what I mean. So again, I just want to indicate these joints a little bit here. I hope you think it looks hand-like. I think now looking at it, I think this finger is too narrow at this point here, so I will eventually, probably when it's dried a bit more, so not this evening, I shall widen this out a little bit because I think that's too thin there. I think I quite like this one. I think that's come out quite nicely, apart from the nail. I need to sort the nail out. And I think when I've put the wrist in, because I think it would be nice to put, you know, the bones of your wrist here, that bone is a lovely bone to put in, so it'd be quite nice to put that in there, because I think that would just give the definition of the wrist and make sense of the hand. But I think probably that's enough to show you this evening. I hope you'll have a go. Maybe you're already really good at hands. If you are, send us some pictures and tell us how you did it. But if you do have trouble with hands, keep practicing them, because it's very satisfying once you feel you can do hands and you want to do hands rather than avoiding it, which I did for so long. So I'll do a bit more work on this before I next see you, and I'm not sure what I'll do with this hand, probably nothing, but I'll try and finish it so that it's at a more refined stage, and then you can see how sanding and things helps. I probably won't colour it, I'll just leave it as a white hand, just a study of a hand. But I think there's a lot more I can do to this to improve it. So I'll show it to you next time and you see what you think. Okay, so that's the hand for this evening. So what I wanted to just briefly tell you, I was telling you earlier that my next commission is this relief panel of the 4 friends on the boat. And for relief panels, I don't know whether I've ever talked to you about those. I've done quite a few of them. And I do them on a piece of wood, or MDF type wood, but the important thing to remember when you're doing these relief panels, if you ever do them, is to really seal the wood, to prime the wood before you start work on it, because as soon as you put a load of wet clay onto it, it's going to warp. I've had a couple of accidents like that, where you've spent a long time working on a piece and then ends up warping and it spoils the whole thing. So you do have to be quite fussy about that, and all sides, back, front, and all the sides of the piece of wood, to stop the water getting in and warping it. I'll show you an example one day of one I did, which ended up sort of looking like a banana from the side because it warped so much. So it's very disappointing if you spent a lot of time on something and then that happens. So it's worth remembering. The other thing I thought we'd do this evening is that I always say to you, if you've got photographs of work that you've done and you want to send them in and we can show them on here. So far I've only had one person do that, and that's Liz. So Liz, we've got a couple of your pictures to show. I know I've asked you if that's okay and you were quite happy with that. So Liz has done some lovely things recently. I want to show you first of all her, she did a bust of her, I think it was her father, is that right Liz? I think it's your father. And there it is. And it's lovely. It really is full of character, and I like the hair, and the nose is fantastic. But what I was saying to Liz was the only thing I would say about that is that the head is far too flat. There's no forehead and dome to the head. So we had a chat about that online and she agreed. And then the next picture she sent me was her solution. So she gave him a hat, and that solved the problem. So, there are ways around these things, but I think it's a lovely piece of work. And she did send me a photo of her, I think it was her father, and it's a good likeness. So well done, Liz, that's very good. She also had a go at a relief panel. So we're going to look at that now, and I think that's lovely. I don't actually know how you coloured that, Liz. Did you use coloured tissue paper or is it paint? Just jot it down if you've got a minute now. Oh wait, she's just said it is her dad. Not that one, the previous one with the hat. So just jot down how you did the colour on that. It looks as if it might be coloured paper, especially the scarf and the decoration around the collar. But it's lovely. It's lovely. And tell us if you actually sealed that and what the backdrop is. Is it wood or is it just clay? If you've got a minute just to write that down. And then the other piece she did was the lovely one of her dog. And I think that's full of character, and I love the texture she's got in there for the fur. It's really lovely. And I like the way you've coloured it. Tissue paper and makeup she used for the other one. That's good. Nice to see you're having a go at some of the things I do. So thank you, Liz, for sending in those. It's really nice to see your work. And if anyone else wants to send in anything to show me what you've been doing and I can share it with the rest of the people that are watching that, then please do. But send it in plenty of time so we can get it onto the screen before the next broadcast. Okay.
We have a question from Angela.
Right.
How do you get proportions with hands?
Well, I think if we're looking at this picture, if you go back down onto here, Roll, you have to sort of look at it not as a hand. That's how I look at it. I look at it as a series of shapes and where things lie. So, for instance, that thumb, the end of that thumb at this angle, if you take a curve around, all the knuckles, these 4 knuckles, come in a nice curve round to the end of the thumb. So I do it like that. So most of what I do is by eye, I have to admit. I know some people take a lot more measurements and things, but I do most of it by eye. I sometimes use these. So, you could measure from knuckle to knuckle or knuckle to nail and work it out that way. They're useful for some things. But I tend to just use patterns, and I see, for instance, the end of that, the top of that nail here is sort of in line with the bottom of this knuckle here. So I just try and see shapes and pretend it's not a hand. I'm just looking at a series of shapes. So that's how I do it anyway. Hope that answers that question. Anybody else got any questions? No? Okay, how are we doing for time? So I think that's sort of all I wanted to do with you this evening. So one thing to say to those of you who live in the UK and are anywhere near Cardiff, where I live, I have got a workshop coming up on the 1st and 2nd of April, and I've got one space left in that. So if anyone watching now would like to contact me if they want to come on that workshop, then do let me know. And our next broadcast will be on the 2nd of April. So I'm going to have a busy weekend that week. I've got a workshop for the 2 days and then a broadcast on the Sunday night. So
we'll be on British summertime by then. So if
yes.
you're in the UK, it'll be at 9 o'clock.
Yes. Did you hear that? I don't know whether you can hear Rob in the background, but our clocks will have changed by then. So yes, for those of you in the UK, instead of 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, it'll be 9 o'clock. And the rest of you around the world, you'll have to work it out for yourself.
It'll still be 8pm GMT.
Oh, okay. So it'll still be 8pm GMT. So yeah, hopefully you can sort that one out. Okay. So thanks again for watching, and I hope it was useful and you enjoyed watching the hand being made. If you have a go at making some hands, send me some pictures. Okay. But for now, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.